And so now we'll investigate why Kleiner Perkins invested in Amazon. While Amazon has a very interesting founding story, we'll jump ahead to what the company looked like 2 weeks after they launched. So after 2 weeks, Amazon generated $25,000 in revenue, only selling books online at this point, with no marketing spend. So this $25,000 of revenue was purely driven by word of mouth, which is just the definition of immediate product market fit right there. And this was in July 1995. And so by the end of that year, about 6 months, they had $500,000 in revenue. And in 1996, their first full year of existence, they did $15.7 million in revenue. So yeah, like I said, immediate product market fit. Again, just books. I mean, Americans don't even read. So this is why it's even crazier of how strong this product market fit was and how strong this desire to order things on the internet and just marvel at it just arriving at your door with a few clicks. So around mid 1996, Bezos and the Amazon team went out to raise money to help fund this clearly strong accelerated growth. After all, Amazon was not profitable at this point, and running a supply chain for thousands of books a day is a hefty challenge, both logistically and financially. So like we talked about with WhatsApp in the Sequoia episode, this deal was hot. Kleiner didn't really have a unique insight into why Amazon would work because, well, they did $15.7 million in revenue in their second year of existence. And $15.7 million of revenue when there were only 45 million users on the internet in the world. So Amazon, in its first full year of existence, was making about 35 cents per user on the internet, which is kind of a crazy stat, again, for a company less than 18 months old. So, as I mentioned before, John Doerr had joined Kleiner Perkins by now. He joined in about 1980. And John Doerr in 1996 is just a rock star, which sounds funny if you look him up because he does not look like a rock star. But every company in Silicon Valley wants John on their board because of just his high intelligence, as we said before, his just incredible drive to succeed, and his sharing with the entrepreneurs of just believing in big ideas. On top of that, if you got John on your board, you had a much higher chance of succeeding than the average VC-funded company. John was very similar to the entrepreneur because he was just as much a dreamer as the entrepreneur and loved building companies as much as he or she did. So there was truly an alignment between the founder and investor that didn't feel transactional, but more like a true partnership, like how venture capital should be. Luckily for Jeff Bezos, he didn't really need to pitch John because John was reportedly calling Tom Alberg, a early investor and board member in Amazon. Actually, he was reportedly calling Tom Alberg's wife, who was home at the time when he was calling, apparently every 15 minutes, asking if Tom was home yet and how he just needed to talk to him. And so what's so funny about this is, again, John Doerr is the biggest name in Silicon Valley. And he's calling this guy who really doesn't have, I mean, Tom Alberg really doesn't have a name to himself at all at this point. So it's kind of like, weird to make a basketball reference to this, but it's kind of like if Phil Jackson called a low-level Division I basketball coach's wife every 15 minutes about one of his players. And so John Doerr, even though he was such a big name, he still had that type of hustle and that persistence. And so why was John so confident that he needed to invest in Amazon? And how did he jump on this deal so fast? Well, Doerr attributes this to having a prepared mind, which is a core tenet of being a successful venture capitalist in his eyes. He once said, quote, "You must bring a prepared mind to these decisions. And so I think it's important to read and learn and bring curiosity and energy. Work to stay abreast of what's important and why. You know, it's not enough to know that Bitcoin is a new means of conveying value. You ought to know how Bitcoin works and what the physics behind it is in the technology, because that gives you a better opportunity to understand what the innovators and entrepreneurs are saying. So John was obsessed with the internet. He thought the internet was going to be way bigger than anyone thought, which still exceeded his own expectations. This is why John led the investment in Netscape, the world's first public internet browser, because he knew that this browser would unlock the capabilities of the internet for millions of people in just a point and click method that was not mainstream at the time. And so, having seen the success of Netscape, he was confident an e commerce everything store like Amazon would be huge. It was a giant industry defining investment that fit the type of companies John loved to invest in. So, as a result, John Doerr was very persistent in getting in touch with Amazon because he had so much conviction to invest and wasted no time. But John wasn't just interested in Amazon, the company. He also had a great admiration for Jeff Bezos. Doerr once said, quote, "When you meet Jeff Bezos, you just know that you want to be in trouble with him. Jeff was a computer scientist from Princeton, exceedingly bright, and I remember walking into his offices in a very seedy part of Seattle. In fact, the free needle clinic was right across the street from his office, and Jeff came bounding down from the loft in this place where they were distributing the books, and a laugh that only could barely be described as a laugh. It was more like a honk." At that moment, from the intensity in his eyes and the way he talked, I knew there was a kind of personal bond that meant I wouldn't mind being in trouble with Jeff. One thing I'm pretty sure about is any of the entrepreneurs that I get to work with who are going to do something world changing, we are going to get in trouble. End quote. I love that framework of investing in someone you wouldn't mind getting in trouble with, because that was absolutely the case with Amazon. Amazon was constantly threatened by Barnes and Noble, actually, as the early stage, constantly getting threatened and I think sued, but settled quietly. And Jeff wouldn't back down, but a lesser founder surely may have, as Barnes and Noble was the king of the book industry. And so, like I said, Amazon had to fight off lawsuits, several short sellers, a lot of investor criticism, but Jeff fought on. And John Doerr could foresee this future with Bezos. He saw that he was a fighter, and he thought they'd have a lot of fun disrupting an entire industry. Interestingly enough, this investment almost fell into the Kleiner Perkins anti-portfolio, actually. As much as John loved Amazon and Bezos, he could not accept a board seat at the company. He was already oversubscribed, like always, on board seats, since everyone wanted John Doerr on their board. So he said he couldn't make time for Amazon, and he instead wanted to put a junior VC on the board. Crazy to think about now, but this was the reality back in 1996 for Amazon. So, like I just described, John Doerr being on so many boards, attracting so many great entrepreneurs, is a blessing and a curse for Kleiner Perkins that we're going to see frequently throughout their history. They attracted the best entrepreneurs because of John Doerr, but they also missed some of the best entrepreneurs because of John Doerr. Because in the eyes of many founders, Kleiner Perkins was John Doerr. And if John couldn't be on your board, then there really was no reason to work with Kleiner Perkins. On top of this, Bezos had an offer from a competing venture capital firm named General Atlantic for twice the valuation that Kleiner was offering, which is crazy. Twice is crazy. But again, Bezos wanted John Doerr on his board. And Bezos was ready to go with General Atlantic, but luckily, at the last second, Doerr wisely committed to a board seat on Amazon, made the time commitment work, and led the investment of $8 million for 13% of the company. 13% of Amazon. Jeez. It's crazy that Bezos diluted twice as many shares as he had for that $8 million investment just to have John Doerr on his board. I mean, like I said, $8 million for 13% of the company. He could have got $8 million for 6.5% of the company from General Atlantic. I mean, that's a lot of value that Jeff Bezos spent, thinking of Amazon value today, just to have John Doerr on his board. I mean, I can't believe a venture capitalist was worth that much at one point in time. And certainly no one in the VC industry today is worth such a difference in valuation. And I'm assuming there was never anyone quite to the level of John Doerr in terms of how valuable he is to have on your board. I mean, that's just crazy. And so it's unclear when Kleiner Perkins sold all of their shares in Amazon. Doerr remained on the Amazon board until 2010, so they may have held some of their stake until then. Probably not, though. That's a long time. I read one article that said as of October 1998, they had made over 325 million on that investment, but hadn't finished distributing all their shares yet. So since this is the only factual number I have, we'll calculate Kleiner Perkins' return on investment on Amazon as of 1998. Remember, they invested originally in 1996, which means they returned $325 million at least on an $8 million investment just 2 years later. Crazy, which yielded them a quick and spectacular 41x on their investment and an even more impressive 537% IRR. And quick side note, after researching Yahoo with Sequoia and eBay with Benchmark, and now Amazon with Kleiner Perkins, I mean, these late 90s .com era investments were just absurd. I can't imagine VCs ever seen IRRs like they saw during this time ever again. But then again, who knows? We'll see what happens with AI. I don't know. But I can't believe these numbers.